The grand hall of Zenith Prime Station stretched out like a crystal palace floating in space. Hundreds of alien delegates filled the massive room, their voices creating a low hum of conversation. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few seemed to be made of living light. They had all gathered for the Galactic Council Summit, the most important diplomatic event of the year. Ryan Parker stood near the back of the human delegation, his eyes scanning the crowd. He wore a simple dark suit that marked him as security, not a diplomat. At 35 years old, he had the kind of face that people forgot easily. Average height, brown hair, nothing special. That was exactly how he liked it. Captain Linda Hayes led the human group. She was tall and confident, speaking with alien delegates who towered over her. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Council 6 months ago. They were the newest members, and many species still questioned whether humans belonged there at all. Ryan noticed the Keltharian delegation entering from the far side of the hall. They were impossible to miss. Each one stood over 7 feet tall, with dark blue skin and muscles that looked like they were carved from stone. Their eyes glowed with a faint golden light. The Keltharians were known across the galaxy as warriors, a species that valued strength above all else. At the center of their group walked Princess Virathar. She wore armor that gleamed like polished silver, and her movements had the grace of a trained fighter. Other aliens stepped aside as she passed, showing respect, or perhaps fear. The reception continued peacefully for another hour. Ryan stayed alert, watching for any signs of trouble. He had learned long ago that danger often came from unexpected places. Then he heard the laughter. A group of Keltharian officers had gathered near the human delegation. Their voices carried across the hall, loud and mocking. "Look at them," one said, pointing at the humans. "So small and weak. They claim to be from a death world, but I could break one with my bare hands." Another Keltharian joined in. "Their bones are so fragile. How did such a pathetic species ever reach the stars?" Captain Hayes kept her face calm, but Ryan saw her jaw tighten. She had dealt with insults before. They all had. Being the new species meant proving themselves over and over again. Princess Virathar approached the group, and the other Keltharians immediately fell silent. She looked at the human delegation with eyes that held no warmth. "I have been studying your species," she said, her voice carrying across the room. Other conversations died away as aliens turned to watch. "Your physical capabilities are laughable. Your strength is 1/3 of a Keltharian. Your speed is even worse. You tire quickly and break easily." Captain Hayes stepped forward. "We have other qualities that make us valuable to the Council." The princess laughed, a sharp sound that cut through the air. "Qualities? You mean tricks and clever words? The galaxy has no need for weaklings who hide behind technology. We have survived and thrived," Captain Hayes said calmly. "That speaks for itself." "Survived?" Princess Virathar moved closer, looking down at the captain. "You survived because you never faced real challenges. My people have conquered dozens of worlds through strength and honor. What have humans conquered besides their own small planet?" Ryan watched the scene unfold. He had been in tense situations before, many times. This felt different. The princess was not just insulting them, she was making a public display, trying to humiliate humanity in front of the entire council. "I propose a test," the princess announced loudly. "A traditional Keltharian trial of endurance. If humans truly deserve their place in this council, let them prove it." The hall went completely silent. Even the translators seemed to hesitate. "What kind of trial?" Captain Hayes asked. "The warrior's path," Princess Virathar said. "An obstacle course designed to test the limits of Keltharian soldiers. It measures strength, speed, endurance, and will. Many of my own people fail to complete it." A small alien with gray skin and large eyes spoke up from the crowd. "Your Highness, no non-Keltharian has ever completed the warrior's path. The physical demands are too extreme." "Exactly," the princess said with a smile. "If humans are as capable as they claim, this should be no problem. Unless they are too afraid to accept?" Ryan saw the trap clearly. If they refused, it would confirm every doubt about human weakness. If they accepted and failed, it would be even worse. Either way, the princess won. Captain Hayes started to speak, probably to refuse diplomatically, but Ryan stepped forward. "I accept the challenge," he said quietly. Every eye in the hall turned to him. Captain Hayes looked shocked. The princess seemed amused. "You?" Virathar asked, looking him up and down. "You are just a guard. Do you even understand what you are agreeing to?" "I understand perfectly," Ryan said. His voice stayed level and calm. "When would you like to hold this trial?" The princess studied him for a long moment. She clearly expected fear or hesitation. Ryan gave her neither. "Tomorrow," she said. "At midday. The trial will be public, so all can witness human failure." She leaned closer, her golden eyes gleaming. "I will be your opponent. You won't last a minute, human, not 1 minute." Ryan met her gaze without flinching. "We'll see." The princess turned and walked away, her guards following. The other Keltharians laughed and made comments about how quickly the human would quit. Captain Hayes grabbed Ryan's arm and pulled him aside. "What were you thinking? Do you have any idea what you just agreed to?" "Yes, ma'am," Ryan said. "I know exactly what I did. The warrior's path has broken professional soldiers. Keltharian soldiers who train their entire lives for this kind of thing." Her voice was low, but urgent. "Their biology is superior to ours in every physical way. This is not a fight you can win." "Maybe not," Ryan agreed. "But someone had to accept. If we backed down, we would never recover from it. Every species in the council would see us as weak. And when you fail tomorrow?" Ryan finally smiled. "Just a little. Captain, I've spent 15 years learning how to survive in places that should kill me. I've walked through deserts, frozen tundras, and jungles that would eat most people alive. The one thing I know how to do is endure. This is different." "Maybe," he said again. "But I didn't volunteer to win, Captain. I volunteered to show them that humans don't quit. That we don't give up just because something is hard. Win or lose, that message will be clear." Captain Hayes looked at him for a long moment, then sighed. "Get some rest tonight. And tomorrow, please try not to get yourself killed." "I'll do my best, ma'am." As Ryan left the hall, he could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching him. He heard the whispers and the bets being placed. No one thought he would succeed. No one believed a human could match a Keltharian warrior. That was fine. He had dealt with doubt before. Tomorrow, he would show Princess Virathar and the entire galaxy what human endurance really meant. She thought he would not last a minute. He planned to prove her very, very wrong. The human quarters on Zenith Prime were quiet that evening. Ryan sat alone in his room, reviewing data files on a small screen. Video footage showed previous attempts at the warrior's path, each one ending in failure or surrender. He watched a massive reptilian alien collapse halfway through the course. Another competitor, some kind of insect warrior with 4 arms, gave up after the environmental section. Even the ones who came closest still failed to reach the end. The course was brutal by design. Captain Hayes entered without knocking. She carried a medical kit and a look of concern. "The doctor wants to run a full physical on you," she said. "Make sure you're in the best condition possible." "I'm fine, Captain. Humor me." She sat down across from him. "Ryan, I need to know. Why did you really volunteer? Was it pride? Anger?" He paused the video and looked at her. "Neither. It was necessary." "Explain." Ryan leaned back in his chair. "That princess was never going to stop with insults. She wanted to embarrass us publicly, to prove that humans don't belong in the council. If I had not accepted, she would have kept pushing until someone did. At least this way, we control who faces the challenge. And you think you're the right person?" "I'm the best option we have," he said simply. "Captain, before I joined diplomatic security, I spent 12 years in special operations, survival training, extreme environment operations, Everything that tests human limits. Captain Hayes nodded slowly. I read your file when you were assigned to us. Arctic missions, desert operations, jungle survival. Impressive record. But this is not Earth. The principles are the same, Ryan said. Endurance is not just about physical strength. It's about mental discipline. It's about knowing your limits and working within them. It's about refusing to quit when everything in your body is screaming at you to stop. The Keltharians are stronger than us. Faster. More durable. I know. Ryan pulled up another video. This one showing Princess Verathar training. But strength has disadvantages too. Their muscles need more oxygen, more energy. They burn through resources faster. In a sprint, they would destroy me. But the warrior's path is not a sprint. It's a marathon. Captain Hayes watched the video. The princess moved like liquid violence. Every motion perfect and powerful. She's not just strong. She's skilled. Agreed. But watch how she trains. Ryan pointed at the screen. Everything is about speed and power. She's used to overwhelming opponents quickly. That's the Keltharian way. But tomorrow is not about overwhelming anyone. It's about lasting. A knock at the door interrupted them. Dr. Paul Griffin entered, a short man with gray hair and tired eyes. Time for that checkup, he said, opening his medical kit. Let's see what we're working with. The examination took 20 minutes. Dr. Griffin checked Ryan's heart, lungs, bones, and every other system. He asked questions about old injuries and current condition. Well, the doctor said finally, you're in excellent shape for a human. But I'm required to tell you that this trial could cause permanent damage. The gravity variations alone could break bones. The environmental sections could trigger hypothermia or heat stroke. And that's before we consider simple exhaustion. Noted, Ryan said. I'm serious. The Keltharians evolved on a heavy gravity world. Their bodies are built for punishment. Ours are not. Doctor, I appreciate your concern, but I'm doing this anyway. Dr. Griffin sighed and packed up his equipment. Then at least let me give you something for the pain. It won't help much, but it's better than nothing. After the doctor left, Captain Hayes remained. You should try to sleep. Tomorrow will be the hardest day of your life. Probably, Ryan agreed. But not the first hard day I've had. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. Ryan, everyone is betting against you. The entire station thinks you'll quit in the first 10 minutes. Let them bet, he said quietly. I've been underestimated before. Across the station, in the Keltharian quarters, Princess Verathar went through her evening training routine. Her guards watched as she ran through combat forms. Each movement precise and deadly. Commander Zephrun, her oldest advisor, approached carefully. He was an older Keltharian, his dark blue skin marked with scars from decades of service. Your Highness, he said. Perhaps we should reconsider this trial. She stopped mid-form and looked at him. Why? Are you afraid I will lose to a human? No, Your Highness. I am concerned about the political implications. If you injure or kill the human, it could damage our relationship with their species. Princess Verathar laughed. I will not kill him. He will surrender long before that becomes necessary. They all do. The human seemed very calm when he accepted. Of course he did. He does not yet understand what he faces. She resumed her forms, throwing punches that would shatter stone. I have studied their species, Commander. They are weak in every measurable way. Their endurance is slightly better than average, but still far below ours. Tomorrow will be educational for them. Zephrun watched her train. With respect, Your Highness, I have lived a long time. I have learned that underestimating any opponent is dangerous. I am not underestimating them, she said. I am simply acknowledging reality. The warrior's path was designed to break Keltharian soldiers. What chance does a human have? Clip. Clip, the commander said nothing more. He had served the royal family long enough to know when advice would be ignored. Later that night, Princess Verathar stood at her window, looking out at the stars. She thought about the human who had accepted her challenge. Ryan Parker, just a security guard, not even a trained soldier according to their records. She wondered if he truly understood what tomorrow would bring. The pain, the exhaustion, the moment when his body would simply refuse to continue. Everyone had that moment. Everyone broke eventually. Tomorrow, she would prove that humans were not ready for the Galactic Council. She would prove that strength and honor still mattered in the universe. And she would do it in front of every species that doubted Keltharian superiority. The human thought he could last. She had seen that determination in his eyes. But determination meant nothing without the body to support it. Tomorrow would teach him that lesson. In his room, Ryan finally turned off his screen and prepared for sleep. He had watched enough footage. He understood the challenge now. It was designed to push Keltharian warriors to their absolute limits, to find the breaking point of their enhanced bodies and iron wills. For a human, it should be impossible. But Ryan had learned something important during his years in survival training. The human body was capable of far more than most people thought. The mind usually gave up long before the body actually failed. Pain was just information. Exhaustion was just a state of being. What mattered was the choice to continue. Tomorrow, Princess Virathar would learn something about humans. She would learn that they came from a world that tried to kill them every single day. A world with weather that could freeze or burn, with animals that could tear them apart, with diseases and disasters and 1,000 other dangers. Humans had survived all of it, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they refused to quit. Because when faced with impossible odds, they adapted. They endured. They found a way. Ryan closed his eyes and controlled his breathing, slowing his heart rate like he had been trained to do. Tomorrow would hurt. Tomorrow would push him further than he had ever been pushed before, but he would not quit. Not in the first minute. Not in the first hour. He would show Princess Virathar and the entire galaxy what human endurance truly meant. Let them underestimate him. Let them bet against him. Let them think he would break. He would prove them all wrong. The arena was larger than Ryan had expected. Thousands of aliens filled the viewing stands, their voices creating a roar of anticipation. Screens floated in the air, showing the obstacle course from multiple angles. The warrior's path stretched out below, a nightmare of challenges designed to break even the strongest competitors. Ryan stood at the starting line in simple gray athletic clothing. No armor, no special equipment. Just him and his determination. Princess Virathar stood beside him in ceremonial training armor that gleamed under the arena lights. She looked confident. Relaxed even. This was her element. Her people had designed this trial. She had completed it dozens of times. A neutral official, a floating sphere of blue energy, addressed the crowd. The trial will now begin. Competitors must complete the entire course. Surrender is permitted at any time. Medical intervention will occur if sensors detect critical danger. May both warriors show their true strength. The crowd cheered. Ryan noticed that most of the noise came from the Keltharian section. The human delegation sat quiet and tense, watching him with worried faces. Captain Hayes caught his eye and nodded once. Ryan nodded back. The starting signal blared across the arena. Princess Virathar exploded forward like a missile. Her powerful legs launched her across the starting platform and into the first section. Ryan followed at his own pace, steady and controlled. The first obstacle was the gravity field. The course split into lanes, each one increasing in gravitational pull. Standard gravity at the start, then 1.5, then 2 times, Earth normal, climbing all the way to 3 times. Ryan watched the princess charge into the highest gravity lane without hesitation. Her enhanced muscles handled the increased weight easily. She moved through it like she was walking through water, slowed but not stopped. Ryan chose the middle lane. 2 times gravity. Immediately, his body felt twice as heavy. Each step required more effort. His heart rate increased as it worked harder to pump blood. He focused on his breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Steady rhythm. Don't fight the gravity. Work with it. Short steps. Keep moving forward. The princess cleared her lane in under 2 minutes. She waited at the end, watching Ryan struggle through his section. It took him nearly 5 minutes to cross the same distance. "Already falling behind, human," she called out. "You can surrender now and save yourself pain." Ryan did not waste breath responding. He reached the end of the gravity field and moved to the next obstacle. The maze of storms waited ahead. It was an enclosed section where environmental controls created extreme conditions. Heat, cold, wind, electrical interference. All of it changing randomly. Princess Virathar entered first. Ryan followed 30 seconds behind. The heat hit him like a physical blow. The temperature had to be over 120 degrees. The air felt thick and hard to breathe. Sweat immediately soaked his clothing. He heard the princess ahead of him, moving confidently through the maze. Her thermal regulation was superior to his. What felt unbearable to Ryan was merely uncomfortable to her. Then the temperature dropped. Within seconds, the heat vanished, and freezing cold replaced it. Ryan's sweat-soaked clothing became a liability. His teeth started to chatter. He kept moving, one foot in front of the other. The maze was designed to confuse, but Ryan had trained in worse conditions. He had survived Arctic operations, where stopping meant death. This was controlled, artificial. His body could handle it. Wind blasted through the corridor, strong enough to knock him sideways. Ryan braced himself against the wall and pushed forward. His muscles burned from the effort. Lightning arced across the ceiling, filling the air with ozone. The electrical discharge was not strong enough to kill, but it made his hair stand on end and his skin tingle. Finally, he stumbled out of the maze. Princess Virathar was already at the next obstacle, barely winded. She had completed the environmental section in half the time it took Ryan. The screens above showed his vital signs. Heart rate elevated. Core temperature fluctuating. Muscle fatigue beginning to register. "Pathetic," the princess said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Is this the best humanity can offer?" Ryan caught his breath and moved to the climbing wall. It rose 50 feet straight up, with handholds that were deliberately small and far apart. Designed for Keltharian reach and grip strength, the princess scaled it like a spider. Her powerful hands found holds that Ryan could barely see. Her arms pulled her upward with ease. She reached the top in less than a minute. Ryan started climbing. His fingers found the first hold, then the second. Each grip required his full strength to maintain. His arms screamed in protest. He looked up at the wall stretching above him. This was designed to be impossible for someone with human strength. The holds were too far apart, too small, but Ryan had climbed before. Mountains, cliffs, ice walls. He knew that climbing was not just about strength. It was about balance and technique. He found a different path. Instead of reaching for the highest holds, he moved sideways, finding a route that used more leg strength and less arm strength. It was slower, but it worked. The crowd murmured. Some aliens pointed at his unusual approach. The princess watched from above, her expression unreadable. Ryan's arms trembled with effort. His fingers felt like they would tear off. But he kept climbing. One hold at a time. One movement at a time. 20 minutes later, he pulled himself over the top of the wall. His hands were bleeding from the rough holds. His arms felt like rubber. Princess Virathar had already moved on to the next section. Ryan could see her in the distance, running through an obstacle course of swinging barriers and moving platforms. He started running, but his legs felt heavy. The accumulated fatigue was building. He had only completed 3 obstacles, and already his body was telling him to stop. The medical sensors beeped a warning. Dr. Griffin's voice came through the arena speakers, directed at Captain Hayes. "His stress levels are approaching dangerous territory. We should consider stopping this." Ryan heard it but did not slow down. He reached the barrier course and started through it. A heavy weight swung at him from the side. He ducked under it, feeling it pass inches above his head. Another barrier came from the opposite direction. He jumped, barely clearing it. His landing was clumsy, and he stumbled but caught himself. The princess was so far ahead now that she was almost out of sight. The crowd's cheers followed her progress. No one was cheering for Ryan. He pushed through the barriers, taking hits that would have knocked him down if he had not braced for them. Each impact sent pain shooting through his body. His ribs would be bruised tomorrow, if there was a tomorrow. Right now, he had to focus on the next obstacle. Then the next. Then the next. The course continued, an endurance run through rough terrain, a section where he had to carry heavy weights, a pool that had to be crossed while fighting against strong currents. Every challenge pushed him further. Every obstacle took more from him. The princess completed each one with mechanical efficiency, her superior biology, giving her advantages at every turn. But Ryan did not quit. He fell further behind with each section. His body screamed at him to stop. Pain became his constant companion. The screens showed his vital signs getting worse, heart rate dangerously high, dehydration setting in, muscle damage accumulating. Captain Hayes stood in the viewing area, her hands clenched into fists. He's going to hurt himself. Dr. Griffin monitored the medical readings. He should have quit 10 minutes ago. I don't understand how he's still moving. But Ryan was still moving, still pushing forward, still refusing to surrender. Princess Virathar looked back at one point and saw him still coming, still following, battered and exhausted but not quitting. For the first time, a small doubt entered her mind. She had expected him to surrender by now. Everyone surrendered. But the human kept going. She pushed the thought away and focused on the course. The halfway point was approaching. After that came the real test. The section that broke even trained Keltharian warriors. Let him make it that far, she thought. Then he would understand true suffering. The endurance run began at the halfway point. A simple concept with brutal execution, 10 miles of varied terrain. From soft sand that pulled at every step to rocky slopes that punished the ankles. No obstacles to climb or avoid. Just running until the body gave out. Princess Virathar settled into a steady pace that would have left most humans behind in minutes. Her powerful legs ate up the distance. This was what Keltharian bodies were built for. Sustained power over long periods. Ryan followed far behind, his pace much slower. Every step sent pain shooting through his legs. His muscles had moved past fatigue into something worse. They felt like they were tearing themselves apart, but he kept running. Or what passed for running. More of a steady jog that would embarrass a beginner. But it was movement. It was forward progress. The first mile passed, then the second. Ryan's vision started to blur. He could not tell if it was sweat or blood running into his eyes. His hands still bled from the climbing wall. New injuries had joined the old ones. The princess looked back and saw him still coming, still moving. A small knot of frustration formed in her chest. Why would he not quit? Any rational being would have surrendered by now. The medical sensors showed his body approaching its limits. He had nothing to gain by continuing. She increased her pace, trying to break his spirit by showing him how far behind he truly was. Her legs pumped faster. The distance between them grew, but when she looked back again, he was still there. Slower. Yes. Struggling. Absolutely. But still moving forward. Commander Zephrun watched from the viewing area, his old eyes taking in everything. He had seen many warriors attempt the warrior's path. He recognized determination when he saw it. The human will not surrender, he said quietly to himself. The other Keltharian officers nearby heard him and laughed. Look at him, one said. He can barely stand. Another mile and he will collapse. Zephrun did not argue, but he kept watching the human with growing interest. Ryan had stopped thinking in terms of miles or time. His world had narrowed to the next step. Then the next. Then the next. Everything else faded away. He had been here before. Not in an alien arena, but in places just as hostile. Arctic missions, where stopping meant freezing to death. Desert operations, where giving up meant cooking in the sun. jungle survival exercises where quitting was not an option. His instructors had taught him a simple truth. The body could endure more than the mind believed possible. Pain was just a signal. Exhaustion was just a state. What mattered was the decision to continue, so he continued. Mile 5 passed, then 6. The princess was so far ahead now that he could barely see her. But he could see the markers showing the route. That was enough. His legs moved on autopilot. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, a rhythm older than civilization. Humans had been persistence hunters once. They had chased prey for hours, for days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Ryan was not hunting anything except the finish line, but the principle was the same: keep moving. Outlast the challenge. Princess Verathar reached mile 8 and realized something disturbing. She was tired. Not dangerously so, but more tired than she had expected to be at this point. Her superior biology was carrying her. But the accumulated fatigue from the earlier obstacles was starting to show. She had pushed hard early on, trying to demonstrate her dominance. Now she was paying for it. Her muscles were depleting their energy reserves faster than they could replenish, and behind her, somehow, impossibly, the human was still coming. She could see him now on the screens. His form was terrible. His pace was pathetic. But he had not stopped. Had not slowed beyond what his damaged body forced him to. A new emotion entered her mind. Not fear, exactly, but something close to doubt. Mile 9. The terrain became sand, thick and soft. Each step sank in, making forward progress exhausting. The princess powered through it, her strong legs driving her forward. Ryan hit the sand and nearly fell. His legs had nothing left. He went down to his hands and knees, gasping for air. The crowd went silent, waiting for the surrender. Ryan stayed on his knees for 10 seconds. 20. 30. Then he stood up. His legs shook like branches in a storm. But they held. He started walking. Not running anymore. Just walking. But still, moving forward. Princess Verathar crossed the finish line of the endurance run and immediately sat down, breathing hard. She needed rest before the final section. The pit of despair waited ahead, and she would need her strength. But she could not rest yet. She watched the screens, waiting for the human to quit. Ryan emerged from the sand section. His clothing was torn and soaked with sweat and blood. His face was pale except where it was red from exertion. He looked like death walking. He crossed the endurance run finish line and collapsed. The medical alarms screamed. Dr. Griffin stood up, ready to call the trial off. But Ryan's hand moved. He braced himself against the ground, and slowly, impossibly, he pushed himself to his knees, then to his feet. He swayed like he might fall at any moment. But he stayed standing. The crowd erupted in shocked conversation. Aliens who had bet against him were re-evaluating. Species that had dismissed humans were taking notice. Princess Verathar stood up, her own rest cut short. She could not let the human see her sitting, while he remained on his feet. "You have made your point," she called across the distance between them. "You have shown determination. Now surrender before you die." Ryan's response was to take a step toward the next obstacle. Then another. The princess felt anger flash through her. But underneath it was something else. Something that felt uncomfortably like respect. The final section loomed ahead. The pit of despair. An enclosed space with sensory deprivation and physical challenges combined. Darkness, silence, and a maze that had to be navigated by touch alone while carrying weight. It was designed to break a warrior's spirit, to force them to face their limits alone, without sight or sound or support. Many Keltharians failed here. Even after completing everything else, Princess Verathar entered first, grateful for a few minutes away from the watching crowds. The darkness swallowed her immediately. The silence pressed against her ears. She had done this before. She knew the path. She started forward, her hands finding the walls. But something was different this time. For the first time in her life, she felt truly uncertain. Not about the course. About herself. She had called the human weak, pathetic, inferior. She had been so certain of her superiority, but that human was still coming, still refusing to quit despite his body breaking down. What did that say about strength? What did that say about her own assumptions? The weight she had to carry felt heavier than it should. Each step through the darkness seemed harder. And behind her, she knew. The human was entering the pit. Ryan stepped into absolute darkness. The silence was so complete it felt like being buried alive. He could not see his own hands in front of his face. He stood still for a moment, letting his other senses adjust. Then he started forward, one hand on the wall. The weight appeared at the checkpoint. 50 pounds that had to be carried to the exit. He lifted it, feeling his arms protest. Everything hurt. Everything screamed for him to stop, but he kept walking. Into the darkness. Into the silence. Into the final test of his will. Somewhere ahead, the princess moved through the same darkness. Both of them alone with their thoughts. Both of them facing the ultimate question: how much could they endure before they broke? Princess Verathar emerged from the pit of despair into blinding light. She blinked, her eyes adjusting after the complete darkness. Her arms shook from carrying the weight. Her legs felt unsteady for the first time in her life. She had made it through, but it had taken everything she had. The final obstacle stood before her, a staircase, 100 steps leading up to the victory platform. Under normal circumstances, trivial. After everything she had endured, it looked like a mountain. She started climbing. Her legs protested with each step. The accumulated damage from hours of punishment was catching up to her enhanced biology. She was stronger than humans. Yes, but even Keltharian bodies had limits. 1 step, 2 steps, 3. The crowd watched in silence. Even the Keltharian section had stopped cheering. They could see their princess struggling. It shocked them. 10 steps. 20 steps. She grabbed the railing for support. Something she had never needed to do before. Behind her, she heard a sound. A scraping, shuffling footsteps. She turned and saw Ryan Parker emerge from the pit of despair. The human looked like he had been through a war. His clothing hung in tatters. Blood mixed with sweat covered his skin. His eyes were sunken and his face was pale. He swayed like a tree about to fall, but he was still standing, still moving. The weight he had carried from the pit fell from his hands and hit the ground with a heavy thud. He did not seem to notice. His eyes fixed on the stairs. Princess Verathar watched as he took the first step. His leg nearly gave out. He caught himself on the railing. Then he took another step. She should continue. She should finish and claim her victory. But she stood frozen, watching the human climb. Each step looked like it might be his last. Each movement was a battle against a body that had already given everything. But he kept climbing. The crowd began to murmur. Aliens from dozens of species watched something they had never seen before. A human pushing past every reasonable limit. Princess Verathar resumed her own climb. 50 steps now. Her muscles burned. Her breathing came hard. She was going to finish. But the victory felt strange. Hollow somehow. She looked down and saw Ryan 10 steps behind her, still climbing. His hand gripped the railing so tight his knuckles were white. His other hand reached for the next step like he was climbing a cliff face. 70 steps. 80. The princess slowed. Her body was screaming at her to stop. She had never felt this level of exhaustion before. It frightened her, but more than that, she was thinking about the human behind her. He should not still be climbing. It was medically impossible. His body should have shut down long ago. 90 steps. Ryan's vision had narrowed to a tunnel. He could barely see the stairs in front of him. His hearing had faded to a dull roar. Everything hurt so much that the pain had become white noise, but his mind was clear, crystal clear. He had one job: reach the top. Everything else was just obstacle. Left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. 95 steps. Princess Verathar reached the top platform. She had done it, completed the warrior's path. She should feel triumphant. Instead, she turned and looked down at the human. Ryan was at step 90. His legs shook with each movement. His breath came in gasps. Blood dripped from his hands onto the white stairs. He climbed another step. 91. The princess watched him. She thought about what she had said at the start. "You won't last a minute, human." He had lasted for hours. He had endured things that broke trained warriors. He had shown more determination than she had thought possible. She had been wrong. That realization hit her like a physical blow. She had been wrong about humans. Wrong about strength. Wrong about what mattered. Ryan reached step 95. 5 more steps. 5 more impossible steps. His leg gave out. He started to fall backward. Princess Virathar moved without thinking. She descended 3 steps and caught his arm. Her strong grip stopped his fall. Ryan looked up at her through exhausted eyes. He did not speak, did not have the breath for it. She could end this now. Let him fall. Let him surrender. She would still be the winner. But that was not the Keltharian way. Victory through strength, yes, but also through honor. She pulled him up. Her powerful arm brought him back to his feet and steadied him. "Come," she said quietly. "We finish together." She supported his weight as they climbed the final 5 steps. When they reached the top platform, she helped him across the finish line. The crowd exploded. Not with jeers or mockery, with genuine amazement. Ryan collapsed onto the platform. Medical teams rushed forward immediately. Dr. Griffin got to him first, scanning his vital signs with shaking hands. "Get him to medical now," the doctor ordered. "He's in critical condition." But before they could move him, Princess Virathar knelt beside him. She looked at the broken human who had proven her so wrong. "I was wrong," she said, her voice carrying across the arena. "I said you would not last a minute. You lasted far more than a minute, human. You lasted until the end." She stood and addressed the entire assembly. Her voice was strong, despite her exhaustion. "I challenged humanity's place in the Galactic Council. I claimed they were too weak to deserve membership. I was wrong." The arena fell silent. "This human showed me something today. Strength is not just muscle and speed. Strength is the will to continue when continuation seems impossible. It is the refusal to surrender despite overwhelming odds. It is endurance beyond reason." She looked down at Ryan, who was being lifted onto a medical stretcher. "Humanity has earned their place among us. Any species that can produce warriors like this deserves respect." The Keltharian section sat in stunned silence. Then, slowly, Commander Zephrun stood and began to applaud. Other Keltharians joined him. Soon the entire arena was on their feet. Ryan barely heard it. He was fading in and out of consciousness. But he heard the princess's words. Heard the admission. Heard the respect in her voice. He had done it. Not the way he expected. Not alone, but he had done it. Captain Hayes rushed to the medical bay where they were taking Ryan. Dr. Griffin was already working, running scans and administering treatments. "Will he be okay?" she asked. "Eventually," the doctor said. "Severe dehydration, muscle damage, minor fractures, exhaustion beyond anything I have seen. But he will live. Humans are tougher than they look." The political impact was immediate. The Keltharian Empire formally withdrew their objections to human council membership. Other species that had been skeptical suddenly wanted to meet with the human delegation. 3 days later, Ryan woke up in the medical bay. Every part of his body ached, but he was alive. Captain Hayes sat beside his bed. "You did it," she said simply. "You crazy, stubborn man. You actually did it." "We did it," Ryan corrected, his voice rough. "The princess helped at the end." "Wise." "She did more than that. She has requested a formal meeting with you. She wants to establish a training exchange program, human survival experts teaching Keltharian soldiers, and vice versa." Ryan smiled slightly. "That would be good. They could learn from us. We could learn from them." The door opened, and Princess Virathar entered. She looked fully recovered, her enhanced biology already healing from the trial. She approached Ryan's bed and bowed her head slightly. a gesture of respect among Keltharians. "I came to apologize," she said. "And to thank you." "For what?" "For teaching me humility. For showing me that my assumptions were based on incomplete understanding." She met his eyes. "I have spent my life believing that physical strength was the highest virtue. You showed me that determination and will can be just as powerful." "You helped me finish," Ryan said. "You did not have to do that." "Yes, I did. You had already proven your point. Letting you fall would have been dishonorable." She paused. "Besides, you earned it." Every step. Over the following weeks, the relationship between humanity and the Keltharian Empire transformed. The training exchange program began. Keltharian warriors learned human survival techniques. Human soldiers learned Keltharian combat methods. But more than that, a bridge had been built. One based on mutual respect and understanding. Princess Varathar returned to her homeworld with a new perspective. She had learned that underestimating any species was a mistake. That strength came in many forms, that humans, despite their weaker bodies, possessed something that made them formidable. They did not quit. They did not surrender. They endured. Ryan recovered fully over the next month. He returned to his duties with the human delegation, now treated with respect by species that had previously dismissed him. When asked about the trial, he always gave the same answer. "I did what any human would do. I kept going. That's what we do. That's who we are." And across the galaxy, species that had doubted humanity's place in the Council learned an important lesson. Never underestimate a human's ability to endure. Never assume that physical weakness means lack of strength. And never, ever tell a human that they cannot do something, because they will prove you wrong, every single time.